welcome to Healing from Complex PTSD, where now we're actually going to do day 3 of what was going to be a weekly series, and it still is. It's just that all the days aren't one after another, because this is what happens when we're in recovery from complex PTSD. It absolutely disrupts our life, our plans, because that's what happens when the brain is still recovering. The interruptions are automatic, they're unconscious, and they're not something that we choose, but it happens. The most important part is that we get back up, we get on the horse again, and we know that each time we've built more back into our life. So today we're going to look at exploring a truth that often hits deep. Complex trauma is a relational injury. So why do we keep trying to heal it in isolation? So on day 2, we explored how childhood trauma changes our brain development, especially around safety, around love and decision making. We talked about emotional flashbacks, the trauma brain, and how our executive function can be deeply impacted. Did you get a chance to ask yesterday's reflective question, or day 2's reflective question? And what does your brain still assume is dangerous, even when it's no longer true for you? So feel free to drop a light bulb if anything clicked or surprised you while journaling. For those that are new here, welcome. My name is Linda, and I'm a complex trauma educator and complex trauma coach. And at the moment, I'm writing the world's first complex trauma experiential certification, and we're going to grow that hopefully into an experiential university course as well. So today, why do we try to heal this injury alone? So complex trauma is usually the result of chronic, ongoing misattunement, not one isolated trauma. So it forms when our core needs like connection, safety, soothing, being seen are consistently unmet. So like when our parents, our caregivers, it's all about them, and we've learnt from this incredibly young age to keep silent, okay, because we don't want to cause any disturbances. We've learnt to keep silent so that we don't get injured. We've learnt to keep silent because our families, even especially in mine, the non-verbal messages were, we don't talk about that. I remember one time my grandmother, who I absolutely adored, and I used to take holidays from work and go and spend like a week with her and my grandfather, because as a child they always had me for holidays and I just loved them. So we used to do things like, travel interstate with a car and a caravan and have holidays, and so I just loved them that much that I would take time out of my adult life and go and just spend time with them. And I found out she was literally just 3 minutes down the road from me and hadn't let me know that she was coming up interstate to visit the other relatives here. There was nothing said, and I rang my uncle down interstate because my pop had died by then, and said, where's Nan? Where is she? And he said, she's up there with the other uncle. So I rang my Nan, absolutely heartbroken, sobbing and saying, why couldn't you let me know you were here? What's up? Anyhow, I managed to calm down, and she said to me, well, yes, you can come and see me, but, don't bring any of this up. And I was just like, later in life, it just all clicked into place, where my family was consistently going, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about emotions. We don't recognise them. We don't want to have a real conversation about why you, my granddaughter who spent time with us and we loved and had you, and we just don't talk about this stuff, about what's going on in the family, But these wounds, when they're from other people within our childhood, my childhood, they are stored relationally in parts of our brain wired for connection. So as adults, without even knowing it, we end up not fully connected in the brain, which sounds a bit funny, but it's the truth. Our brain doesn't have a chance to develop properly. It doesn't have a chance to connect all the things, all the parts of the brain that need connecting, because we never get the information we need either. And that's just one part of it. So we may become hyper independent. I'll do it on myself, which I certainly did. And being a first child as well, I grew up hyper independent and taking responsibility for lots of other people as well. We can become hyper attached. So it can impact our attachment needs, where we can say, please don't leave me, even if this hurts. Okay? Some of us fawn, we freeze, or we feel intense emotional flooding when others get too close. Or, we can be in a situation where we just shut down. And we don't want to shut down, we want to have the adult conversations, but we literally are unable to process and talk through what's happening internally for us. We struggle to trust love, even when it's safe, because we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, okay? And these are things that when we know this language, we begin to recognize when it is happening for us. So why do we try to heal alone, and why that backfires? So many survivors carry shame. It's my fault. I'm too much. I'm not enough. Self-help can be safe because people can disappoint us from a distance. But the original injury happened in relationship, and healing will require safe, co-regulated relationships too. Not just romantic relationships though. Friends, coaches, spiritual community, even self-to-self connection. So sometimes even the idea of being in sync with someone can be too frightening for us. The fear that comes with connecting to anyone new or going anywhere new can be so overwhelming that we literally find it too hard to even talk to somebody about what's happening internally for us, apart from the fact that we don't have language to describe what's happening inside of us either. So we avoid engaging with somebody who may be able to understand. Sometimes we're used to everybody downloading or inputting into our life as opposed to us actually speaking up. So one of the things that my oldest son brought up today, that I taught my children was, no matter what, we talk it through. No matter what, we talk up. No matter how afraid you are, we always have the conversation. So it makes for a whole different world. And then the environment that we live in, our world, it makes for a whole different space. And then at one point in time, so that's how I raised my children, but when my youngest became into adulthood well and truly, he said, Mum, you taught us to do all of this, but you don't do it with us. And I hadn't realised that I didn't speak up to them, even though I taught them how to speak up. So we go through a whole lot of different cycles of understanding because there are things that just didn't happen in our life, especially in our family when they don't want to have genuine, authentic conversations about what's hurting. And then in some cases, they might want to tell you what's hurting, but they don't have the capacity to actually think, oh, I better listen about what's hurting for that person as well. Okay? And we are the first generation with all of this language and understanding. First generation to have the brain information. The first generation that are changing things for our families. And if you've ever seen the reel on social media which shows intergenerational trauma in the form of about 4 or 5 glasses of water, with one of them having dye, and then it gets to our generation and pours out all the dye. I can absolutely affirm to you that it's absolute rubbish. It doesn't end with us. The healing starts with us, but it goes on for another couple of generations where my children are still impacted, but we have healthy relationships. And then my granddaughter is now going to go to school equipped with all that she needs that neither of the 2 generations had before her. That's a whole other long story, but this is what we have to realise. We're the pioneers. We're the starting point. We're not the end point too, okay? This is something that has been going on for so many multiple generations that it's just not going to end in one, no matter how much some of us believe that we could end it in one, okay? It won't, it can't. So one of the major things we can do is begin to evaluate where is fear stopping us from stepping forward and opening up about what's happening internally for us. So one of our reflective question for this day's work is, where did I learn that being close to others wasn't safe? And drop a brain if that question really lands for you as well. Drop a brain in the comments, because we've got to wrap our brain around all of this as well. And then I've put a journal prompt in for today. When I think about trusting others, what fears or patterns show up for me? So what can I see is happening on repeat? And we can start with this stem. I've learned to protect myself by... Now, how do you protect yourself? Do you not answer calls? Do you avoid going out or seeing anyone? Do you avoid even engaging with people online? Do you do everything for your family so that they're so busy engaged in what they're doing and what you're doing for them that they don't even notice you? Okay. And it's kept me safe, but it's also made me feel. Does it make you feel lonely? Does it make you feel unseen? Does it make you feel depressed? Does it make you feel lots of different things? And you want to put those lots of different things in a bucket and just draw one out at a time. Sometimes that's how chaos represents itself inside of us, is that we can't just pinpoint one thing at a time, okay? So no worries if it's chaos at the moment, okay? So today we touched on something that's really core, the truth that you were shaped in relationship, and you will also heal in different types of relationships. You don't have to do it all alone, despite what the fear will tell you, okay? So drop a heart in the comments if relationships have been the hardest part of your healing journey, and know that it's not because you're broken. It's because your brain was wired to expect disconnection, not safety. Your brain has yet to experience connection, full connection. And the good news is that wiring can change through connection, not isolation. Okay, that's all for day 3, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I will be back with day 4 sooner than day 3. Have the most gorgeous week, and thank you all for being here. Bye for now.